This is the Grow My Clinic podcast by Clinic Mastery, where we help you deliver amazing client experiences to grow your clinic.
We are your hosts today, Jack O'Brien, and I have with me Ben.
Hey Jack, great to be on board. Today on the podcast, we're talking about how you can get your team onto Asana.
Fantastic. So we're going to go deep on implementation of Asana, which is a fantastic tool. You can hear about it on one of our other episodes if you search back through our library. So Benny, give us the headlines. What are we going to learn? What's the takeaways from this podcast episode?
The key is that you have got to use it. If you don't use it, how can you empathize with your team's questions or concerns? So you've got to use it. You've got to understand a very simple distinction of how to roll it out, a sequence and order of how to implement it, and then really how to manage it and make sure that it's being used.
Great. All right, let's go straight in. Let's get nice and deep. So tell me about getting your team on board. How do we do that?
Number one, as we started with, if you use it first, you're going to understand it. You're going to go through the same challenges that your team do because it's new for you as well. You're going to be able to empathize with their questions or concerns about, hey, it's a new place for me to look during my day, or I don't know how to do that functionality. I think the nature of the beast, Jack, is that a lot of people in the team will tend to avoid it early on because it's unfamiliar.
Yeah,
so
totally.
You've got to use it personally, and you've got to iron out the creases and learn how to do it. And really the key for implementing any change in your clinic, in your business, when you've got a team, is that they're always thinking, well, hey, what's in it for me? How's this actually benefiting me and my role? Otherwise, they just see it as more work. I'm sure you've seen that across the board, Jack, with big teams especially.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to paint the picture of why it's relevant for someone to change what they're already doing. Because the truth is, most of our teams think they're doing a fantastic job, and probably they are. So we need to communicate the benefits as to why they might change that, add something in, subtract it. And I think, Benny, you touched on something really important there around clinic owners taking responsibility for the changes that they want to bring into their clinic. Unfortunately, you can't just abdicate all responsibility, and you need to be the chief evangelist of some of these new changes. Now, that doesn't mean you need to be, the technical expert or the web developer or the Asana guru, but you need to lead the way by investing yourself into these apps and tools and technology. So we've got to learn it ourselves. We've got to make sure our team understand what's in it for me. Ben, what is the best way to communicate to your team what's in it for me? How do you do the pitch?
I absolutely love sitting down with a piece of paper or you're typing on your computer and literally write out bullet points of why this is going to benefit your team, so that when you go to deliver that verbally, or whether it is through an email, it's written, that you're clearly articulating why it's relevant, why it's important, why it's going to benefit them. If you haven't seen the resource, the incredible TED Talk by Simon Sinek, which is about the golden circle, just Google that, golden circle by Simon Sinek. He shows a method, the why, how, what, which is just amazing for communicating any change. I think if you start with why it's important, then you talk about how you're going to do it, and then specifically you end with the what. What specifically does this look like? How does this play out on a daily basis? That is a great method to use when you're implementing any change, and especially new tech, new stuff that's maybe got a few features, a few bells and whistles that can scare people to begin with. The why, how, what method by Simon Sinek is amazing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It has changed my outlook and the way I communicate. It really has transformed the way I communicate. So if you're taking notes or you're interested in the show notes from this particular podcast episode, you can head to www.clinicmastery.com/podcast002. And we've got some practical ones here that you can write down or you can grab from the show notes. So why is it important that your team might take up a platform like Asana? They need to know what to do and when to do it. They might need to know what their teammates are doing. How important is it that everyone knows what page someone else is on, so that your team can collaborate and communicate on one another's role? You can track progress of tasks or projects, and that your team can delegate if they need help. You can manage workloads amongst your team, and most importantly for you as the clinic owner, your team don't need to ask you what to do every day. Or maybe they're asking you every day and they don't need to wait for your reply. You're busy, you've got a lot on your plate, and you need to be focusing on things that are important, not just the urgent things. So that's some of the reasons why you might implement Asana, or how you communicate that why with your team. Ben, I want to throw it back to you. What are some of the practical things that your team need to do when they're getting onto a platform like Asana?
One of the keys is that they've got easy access, and Asana is a beautifully designed app that you can use on your phone. It's a really easy Chrome or internet browser extension that you can have on your computer. And the key to implementing and using it is that on a daily basis, when you clock on in the morning or whenever the shift begins for that team member, they open up Asana immediately. And that's where they go to find out, what do I need to do today to make sure that everything keeps on moving on, that we create the progress that we need to. So it's really
that's fantastic. So it's reinforcing that rule is really important, that it's just part of your job. When you open the front door, you turn on your computer and you have a certain set of tabs open. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And so as the clinic owner, you then need to be reinforcing that by making sure when people ask you, what do I need to do? You need to point them back to Asana. You always need to point them back to the hub of where your tasks live. Fantastic, Ben. That's been really helpful. Have you got anything else to add on implementation for Asana?
I think the old adage that what gets measured gets managed. And often what we see across the board is that when a clinic owner wants to implement something new, which will be really valuable, they tend to implement it and they do it good for 7 to 10 days, and then they leave it and they think, oh, it's all done, it's all set. You've got to give yourself maybe 6 to 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the size of your team, to check in with them, refine it, make sure it's being used, ticked off in Asana. You've got great tracking there, so you can see if things are literally being ticked off on a daily basis. So give yourself some time. It doesn't have to be done overnight.
Fantastic. And also reinforcing good behaviours or potentially negative behaviours is a really important one in our clinic, and we've seen it across a number of other clinics, is incentivizing 100% Asana adherence is a really good team challenge to essentially gamify the low-level tasks of your clinic. And, you're aiming for 100%. Asana's got all these fancy features, Ben, I'm sure you've seen it. When you tick off a few tasks in a row, randomly, you'll get this flying unicorn across the screen, and it's a KPI, or what we call a CEI, Clinical Excellence Indicator, to make sure that your team is regularly checking off 100% of their tasks. We have essentially done for you task lists for Asana that you can copy and paste from inside our Business Academy that our Clinic Mastery members have direct access to inside the learning portal. And we trust that this has been really helpful for you, making sure you understand, that your team understands, that you can communicate the why behind the platform, and then the specifics of implementation, downloading it from the iTunes store, downloading the Chrome plugin browser, and making sure that your team are incentivized to check it every single day. Ben, that's fantastic. I love Asana. Sounds like you do.
Oh, it is an absolute game changer. I used to have Post-it notes everywhere. Plus, I would have a whiteboard with all my things there to do. And you know what? Things would get missed. They wouldn't get done. And things that I could have got other people to help me with, they sat on my whiteboard. When you can delegate so easily through Asana, it's a game changer.
It really is. So we trust this podcast episode of Grow My Clinic has been helpful for you. The next steps for you are to head to the show notes at www.clinicmastery.com/podcast002. You can also head to the iTunes store or the Stitcher store and subscribe to the podcast so that you're notified every time a new episode is released. And for those who are interested and serious about taking their clinic to the next level, make sure you sign up for the free Grow My Clinic online course on our website, clinicmastery.com. That resource is a game changer for you. We trust this has been helpful. We look forward to hearing from you with your reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to coming to you from another podcast episode really soon.
This is the Grow My Clinic podcast by Clinic Mastery, where we help you deliver amazing client experiences to grow your clinic.